Okay, this really has to do with prospecting when you think about it. Winning is prospecting. It's bringing people into your organization. One of the big problems I initially had was, as soon as I joined the Jesus Film and I was in this role, every person with legs that walked by me, I began to think, do they have money? Do they have money? I'd meet people at church. I bet you they have money. You know, I just started thinking about everybody and thinking they all have money. And I didn't have a filter to screen and to use as a grid in my mind to evaluate really who was the right person to go after and to talk to about money. Okay? So that's what I want to give you right now. I want to give you a filter that is not my own. I borrowed this from somebody else. Can't remember where I heard it first. But it's called HASIT. HASIT. You want to find people that has it. H is a heart for God. Heart for God. Do they have a kingdom mentality? Now, a person really needs to have all 5 of these components in place before they're going to make a major gift. If they don't have all 5 of these things, they will not make a gift. So when I meet somebody, I kind of run through my mind these 5 points and say, does this person has it? First one, as I said, is heart for God. Do they have a kingdom mentality? A person obviously needs to know the Lord. They need to love the Lord. Have any of you had a non-believer make a contribution to your ministry? Okay, some of you have. It happens. All right, it happens. God sometimes does that and uses non-believers to get involved in your ministry. But you're going to find that it's not a good idea to go after people in the marketplace who are maybe really successful who don't know the Lord. It's just not a good use of your time. It's not to say that it can't happen, but heart for the Lord obviously is critical. Secondly, ability to give. You know, if this person is a school teacher or a bank clerk or, yeah, they might have some assets and resources put aside. But that's one of the reasons I always try to find out a little bit about a person's background. You know, what do you do for a living? What's really interesting is that I've discovered that there seems to be a trend for those who give major gifts to organizations in terms of a business career. Now, who of you can tell me what that career might be for people that typically give the largest gifts to an organization? Russ. Business owner, small business owner. If you hear of somebody, if you meet somebody that is a small business owner, your alarms should go off, flags should go up, because that person often is the type that is the most generous and can give. Now, why do you think that is? Why do you think a small business owner is someone that is capable of making major or even mega gifts? Decision maker, perhaps even the sole decision maker. You go to a large organization, what happens? Conflict. I've gone to organizations that, slightly above that, bigger companies where there's partners, and they say, I met with this guy downtown Chicago and he's in a partnership with other businessmen. I said, well, these other partners like to give to other places. So we're just talking about me today. And instantly my heart sank because I thought, wow, this is a big business with a lot of money. But they just decided a long time ago, they all make their own decisions and they're not going to give corporately. It's interesting. Have any of you met somebody who is a child of wealth that grew up as an heir to an enormous estate and has great wealth? I've met a number of these people over the years, and my first thought is, wow, they have a lot of money. And this isn't always the case, but what I have found in many cases is that they're reluctant to give away their wealth. Why do you think they would be reluctant? They didn't work for it. They didn't earn it. So if they give it away, it's gone. An entrepreneur knows how to make money. They don't hesitate. Well, many of them, the believers, one of the reasons I think they give so generously is because they generate wealth. They are doers. They are out there creating business, creating capital and wealth, and they're not afraid to give it away because they've created it themselves through their business. That's the other thing you have to think about as you're talking to these people. These are sharp business minds. They have made decisions and worked very hard for their money. And when you go in to see them, you need to know what you're talking about. You can't just wing it. Hi, I'm Dan. I work for Jesus Film and love God, and let's just hug each other. I kind of used to do that in the beginning. I just thought, because I'm a Christian and I work for Campus Crusade and I'm kind of charismatic and I can just kind of have a great conversation, pat a few people on the back, and hug the babies and all this kind of stuff, that they're going to write a check. And I realized that one about, for the first 5 minutes, that was really good. But after that, because these are business owners, most of them, because they're sharp business minds and they're stewards of their money, they want to know that you have a smart business plan. That this isn't just a joke. I mean, that you just didn't have some, well, I had a vision from God and, we're going to do this thing and, well, how's it going to work? Well, we don't know. We're going to kind of figure it out as we go along. No, these people want to know how this is going to work. So, ability to give. Do they have the ability to give? What kind of business background do they have? Third, spirit of giving. Do they have a spirit of giving? There was a gentleman who he and his wife fit this model. They had started a company a number of years ago. I don't even remember the type of business that it was. They were extremely successful. They had given $500,000 to focus on the family. I know that because their son-in-law is the one that referred me to them. And he goes, don't mention to them that you know this, but they just gave $500,000 to focus. He goes, man, your ministry is great. You ought to go in there, and they got a pile of money. I was like, man, I just foaming at the mouth. I'm like, yes. So I go in there. I was young. I was doing the job. I was living in Chicago, and so this is over in Michigan. So I'm going to Michigan. I met with this couple for 5 years. And they didn't write one check for the Jesus Film Project. Not a single check. And I thought to myself, goodness, why aren't they giving to the ministry? And I realized I think they had a spirit of giving because they gave to focus on the family. But it seemed that, if you look at the next point, interest in your ministry. They didn't seem to have much of an interest. They seemed to like me. They seemed to think that this is really pretty kind of cool. But they just kind of lacked the interest in the ministry. They were always kind to meet with me, but they didn't seem to have a lot of interest. So I hated to let go of it. I hated to just cross them off my list. But I finally did, because I thought, I am wasting my time. They're missing one of the 5 key components that they needed to have. Now, of all of these 5 things, I is the one thing that they're probably not going to have when you first meet them. And that's okay, because they don't know about your ministry. So that's where you educate them, you inform them about who you are and what you're doing, and hopefully they will reach a point where they become excited and they get involved with you. So interest is important. Interestingly enough, have you guys done this? I think most of us in here all raise our support. I remember when I first joined staff and I started raising support. And I was making up my list to call on. And one of the persons on that list was my Sunday school teacher, who was, she and her husband were high school teachers. And they kept saying to me, Dan, come set up a meeting. We want to talk to you about your ministry. I kept blowing them off. Because there were some other people on the list, some friends of my family that I had grown up with that I knew had great wealth. And so this one particular individual was a friend of my family's for years. Even as a young boy, I used to mow their grass. And he had become an executive for Arthur Anderson. This guy was making a lot of money, lived on the right side of town with the big cars and the big home and all this stuff. And I remember calling on him, and I remember them saying to me, we just don't have the resources right now to invest in your life or to give to your ministry. But Dan, we love you. We're excited about what you're doing. And I was really discouraged. I just thought, I'm looking at all these nice cars in their driveway. I'm looking at this big home. They've known me since I was a wee young lad. And I'm thinking, why won't they invest in me? I was really discouraged. And then I finally called on the school teachers, who was my Sunday school teacher. And I went on an appointment, and I'll never forget. This is one of the only appointments I can remember. This is 24 years ago. And I remember being in their tiny little house and to see their expression and how excited they were that I was going into full-time ministry. I mean, they were so excited for me. And they got out their checkbook, and this is 24 years ago, and they wrote me out a check for $50. And I was like, hey, this is really great. Thank you for the $50. They said, no, this is monthly. Monthly. I was blown away because, as you guys know, 24 years ago, $50 a month was a big supporter. Big supporter. And they supported me for a number of years. And you know what the difference was? Spirit of giving. Spirit of giving. They caught it. They knew that investing in kingdom work was so much more important than buying a new car, than getting a bigger home, than anything else. And when you meet people like that, you know that they've got it. You know that they've got it. And it's so cool to see this. And it has begun to transform my own life personally. And I'll share a little bit about that later. And then the last one here is timing. The timing is right. Businesses ebb and flow. There's business cycles. We know that. People have children in college. They're cash short because of things going on with their company, or just life. So you have to understand, what is the timing, for this person when you ask for the gift? It may not be a no permanently. It might just be a no for now. One of the coolest stories I have is a couple that I called on in Chicago. I had gotten their name. They had made a small gift to the Jesus film. I think it was like $5,000. And so I started calling this couple. And I spoke to the lady, and she said, you know what? We are really, really, really busy right now. Could you please call me back in 6 months? Well, this is back in the day of the daytimer. Remember the daytimer, the paper stuff? I'm like, 6 months, okay. So I got my little dealie out, and I flipped it back over, and I wrote 6 months later, call this couple. And I called them. And she's like, hey, Dan, good to talk to you. So we talked again. She goes, we're still kind of really busy. Can you push it back another 6 months? I did it again. I did that for 3 years because she didn't tell me no. She just said, so I kept doing this. I thought, what's it going to hurt? When I finally met with them, they came on, I think at about $60,000 a year. And they now are giving around $100,000 a year, and they have ever since that time. And that was probably about 15 years ago. And they give $100,000 a year to the Jesus Fund every year. Every year. So timing was not right for them. So when you are out there looking for the right people to challenge to a gift, they really have to have those 5 things, okay? And I always ask our guys on our team, do they HASIT? Does this couple HASIT?